Ugh, man. What are you doing here? I thought I destroyed you.
You thought you could destroy me, but I returned.
Whoa, okay, alright, you don't need to...
I'm going to destroy you.
Look, you know what? This is gonna keep going until we nip this in the bud. So, why don't we just talk about how we feel about this, alright?
Sure, we're gonna talk about it, just like we were gonna do the review together. And what happened? You did the review without me. Again.
Yes, I promise to talk to you this time and not just sneak off and do the review without you. Okay?
Fine. Talking about it is easier than destroying you, admittedly.
Alright, just go downstairs and we'll meet you in 5.
5 minutes.
Besides my review on Spider-Man Homecoming, I haven't really talked too much about Marvel. One of my old critical critique reviews had mention of Marvel and whether or not I thought that the Marvel Cinematic Universe was nearing its end at that time, and that was mostly because, in my opinion, Thor 2 and Iron Man 3 were not particularly outstanding films. Like, they're okay, and that, like, you know, but just compared to the other films that Marvel has put out then and since, those two that were, like, right on top of each other just didn't seem very outstanding and very lackluster. They're no means bad films, but I just, at the time, didn't think they were anything worth writing home about, and that maybe it was like a little sign that something was amiss inside the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that it was all gonna, like, the bubble was gonna burst, and it was like superheroes were gonna be uncool again. But that never happened. One thing about me that's always been true is I love superheroes. I love comic books, I love animated TV shows, I love movies, I love everything about superheroes. Everything from Marvel and DC to stuff like Danny Phantom and Ben 10 and you name it. If it has some kind of superheroes in it, I'm watching it, I'm loving it, I'm wishing I was there. And when I left Infinity War, something that, like, so easily could have failed and could have been horrible, and it works out, and everything about it just seems so tight-knit and well-written and well-cast, and it just works out. So let's look into it a little bit, shall we? Right off the bat, the first scene that we are presented with in the film, you can hear a radio transmission, and then you can see a ship getting attacked. And that is the ship that was the Asgardians were escaping in at the end of Thor Ragnarok. And right away, it shows that all of the movie's struggles are completely in vain because Thanos just shows up and completely ruins everything. And that just shows how much of a threat Thanos is. Because it's like he took the threat in the conclusion of the previous movie, Thor Ragnarok, and just completely blows it out of the water by being such a even bigger threat. Speaking of Thanos, he is an amazing villain, and he is definitely, for this movie, the most well-written character. Thanos is like the driving force that makes the characters move and interact, while he is also the common enemy that kind of glues these independent factions into one opposing force. Right off the bat, Thanos shows his power and his threat by easily beating the two big guns of the Avengers, Thor and Hulk. He is menacing as well as calculating. His strength comes from that if his actions weren't misguided, he could easily be a really great hero. And in his mind, he is. Thanos is a really great villain. And like I had kind of alluded to, the heroes are really well written as well. You have to have some like somebody who can stand up to this really big bad guy. So you have a bunch of really well-written good guys that have to then tackle this untackleable, enemy. And you can see the strength of their heroic attributes in something like the city fight where it's Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and Wong fighting the two Inquisitors from Thanos. It's like, yes, they're here to fight the bad guys, and they're gonna look all tough and throw the quips and have, the heroic banter, but they are genuinely, saving people and helping people, and, they're taking the time to be heroes as well. This movie has a really great idea of what a hero is and what they should be. Everyone in this movie has been really well cast, like I said, but they're also well written. They can do a nice balancing act between funny and serious dialogue, as long as everything in between. I really like the implementation of the Iron Spider, because at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, it was already revealed that Tony had built this suit, and, since Spider-Man was going into space to follow Doctor Strange and make sure, fight Thanos on Titan, he kind of needs a spacesuit. So it was one of those, cool, we can introduce, give Spider-Man some more power, but it also comes from a normal place. It's not like Tony Stark just was secretly making this in between films, and it's here's a suit you've never seen before. And it's no, you've seen it, you know where it comes from. So I've said a lot about how well-written these characters are, and a lot of that shows in these interactions. These group interactions of characters who you'd never even imagine would have worked together, like Thor working with the Guardians of the Galaxy, or Iron Man working with Doctor Strange. As a side note, I really love the fact that Thor only refers to Rocket as Rabbit, because one, that's the wrong animal, and two, nobody ever corrects him. No one ever's like, hey, he's a raccoon. No, it's just Rabbit. And it's not even hey, my name's Rocket. No, it's just nothing. No one ever corrects him. They're just I guess I'm Rabbit now. Cool. One thing that I noticed this time that I didn't notice my initial viewings, because I watched it twice in theaters, is that I noticed a lot more that when Thor and Rocket Raccoon and Groot are on their way to the dwarf homeworld to make make Stormbringer, Thor definitely starts showing signs that his past is weighing on him, and he shows his inner strength by pushing forward and lifting everyone's spirits around him. On that note, Groot using his arm to create the handle for Stormbringer, which saves Thor, and then they go down and save the day in the Wakandan battle. That is my favorite scene in the whole movie. Just there was a little heartstring tug when Groot makes the axe handle, and you're oh yeah, Groot's growing out of his rebellious teen phase or whatever. And it's but then just it's you see the Wakandan battle, and it's everything is starting to kind of they're getting overwhelmed, and then just the sky just opens up, Bifrost they're just there, and Thor immediately is I'm dominating this battle, and it's this is exactly what I wanted. So far, I've been giving this movie a lot of praise, but that doesn't mean the movie is completely flawless. So much happens in so little time with no explanation or context. It's almost non-stop action. There's very little time to really understand or comprehend what is happening. It's there are just characters and things happening all over the place, and it's so hard to keep up and keep track. I had an easier time following this because I have watched all the other Marvel films. I am up to speed on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I've read some of the comics, and I know a lot about these characters, so I could piece together the parts I was missing out on. But for someone who doesn't see all the movies, this was maybe their first Marvel movie, would be a confusing mess. And it's like, well, I don't know who any of these characters are or why they're doing it. Now they're all over the place, and why am I supposed to care? So that is one of those things about this film that you really have to know what's going on before you go in, or you're going to be left in the dust, because it's like basically a very interesting filmmaking decision of, normally when you make a film, you want to try to include as many people as possible. But with this film, it was very much like, if you're not on board already, hit the road, Buster. We got things to do. With that in mind, the action is really well choreographed, and it is really well written. The situations, and like I said, everything flows together really well. You may not understand what's going on 100% of the time, but it looks really well, and if you understand it and go back and watch it again, it all makes sense, and it's not like you're getting scratching your head like, whoa, when did that happen? Everything has a place. One of the things that this film presented was its ending. The idea of whether or not it was a good idea to end the movie on this cliffhanger with the bad guy winning and a lot of the heroes being killed. It only serves to get you pumped up for the next movie when they come back, because, it's comic books. Everyone knows that if you die in a comic book movie, unless you're a minor character, you're coming back in the next movie or sometime in the future. Personally, I really enjoyed the ending, and it reminded me a lot of the opening to the 1986 Transformers movie, where it's just a bunch of characters that we knew from the TV show just died, and you're just like, oh, well, how are they going to get out of this one? It's not just as simple as by the end of this 2.5-hour journey, Thanos is going to collect all the Infinity Stones, and then we're just going to stop him just like that. And it's like, no, I don't think that's how it works. So, despite being 2.5 hours, like I said, so much happens in the movie, and yet nothing happens. It's a very weird, catch-22, where, yes, there's a lot of things going on and happening, and it's just crazy jumbled mess if you don't know what you're looking for. But if you stop and just think about it for a second, very little actually happens. So it's just set piece to set piece, but it's the same group that was in Manhattan ends up on Titan and then mixes with half of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And then the same group that was in England then moves, or I think it's Scotland actually, and then goes to Wakanda, meets up with the people already in Wakanda, and the other half of the Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor. So it's if you break it down, it looks like a lot, and there's so many characters, and it's hard to keep track of it all, but so little actually happens that's why it still works. Because, yes, there's a lot visually happening, but in a storytelling perspective, little actually happened. I really enjoyed it, and all in all, I still think it's a fantastic movie. It ends on a somber note, but that will only be made so much better when the opportunity comes to fix everything in the next film. So that was Infinity War. I really liked it, and, of all the Marvel movies, I'd probably place it at a solid 3rd or 4th on my favorites list. Had a lot of action scenes, and there's nothing wrong with that. Next time, I will be reviewing something that I haven't talked about yet, but I do feel deserves a little bit more attention. I'm, of course, referring to Superman Returns.
I'm really glad you and I actually got a chance to sit down and talk to one another. We really haven't gotten that chance, It seems so weird. We've been in so many videos together, and we never really talked. Hey, wait a minute. You're not mad. You're just some dog. Oh, crap. He did the review without me again.
Is it as bad as they say, or is it as good as I remember it being? I guess we'll find out next time.
You were supposed to be there to talk to me.
You again? Oh, wait, that's right. We were supposed to talk about this, weren't we?
Yeah, that's right. You should feel bad.
Alright, I'll give you that one. That one's on me.